Season 10 of Alone. Sorry for being a little bit late on this one, everybody. I've been on vacation myself, but I'm back now, ready to dive into Season 10, Reindeer Lake. So this is the closest season ever to where I live. I actually got hit by a boat a little bit southwest of Reindeer Lake. I've also gone fly-in fishing directly west of Reindeer Lake on Daly Lake. And, some of these remote lakes in northern Saskatchewan are absolutely loaded with lake trout and pike. So I kind of expect that to be the main food source for the season. Of course, we're going to get the hype train about, oh, somebody's going to kill a bear, somebody's going to kill a moose. But I feel like if that had happened, we'd already be getting that shoved down our throats on the previews. So really, I think that this season is going to be completely about who makes the best use of the lake. Also for shelters, I don't think shelters are going to have to be overly complicated here. The real things that we're concerned about, a cold winter, we could get periods of very cold winter. Usually I think the show is over by the time we get to the point of the season where we do have that nasty weather, like late January kind of time of the year. And I think that this show usually ends, after Christmas, start of the new year, roughly. So I don't think we're going to have that extreme cold, but this is still like a pretty remote landlocked area, which means that we do have the potential for like a minus 40-ish winter. And in my opinion, that's going to be at least manageable by the time we get to that point. So shelter wise, I think that the other concern is the wind off the lake. That was kind of highlighted to us and to all the contestants. So I think that you just don't want to build on the shore, and it's not going to be like big hilly terrain. We're in Saskatchewan, which is known across Canada for how flat it is. It's not like we're talking that there's going to be no elevation change whatsoever. But even on this first episode, we're not seeing people climbing up big hills or anything like that. So I think you want to be back off the water, far enough to be out of the wind, and elevated enough that you're not just in a complete swamp, and then just get enough to cover you up and give you a little bit of insulation for winter, and that's it. What else we want to talk about? One more thing, that this lake is quite remote, so I think that the contestants will not be finding many man-made objects just laying around on the ground, which I think makes the show a little better. So we met 5 of the contestants for the season, and I'm legally obligated to cheer for Alan Tenta because he was my brother-in-law's teacher back in northern BC, where him and his family, including my wife, grew up. So we're absolutely going to be cheering for Al. We're absolutely going to be biased towards Al this entire season. And you know what? We might as well be, because he had a pretty good start to his journey, had that dip in the lake. We didn't see any of these other people dipping in the lake. I like to see that. It was pretty warm when he got dropped off, and you might as well just get that out of the way day one, because you're later on in the year now, you're going to want to go in that lake. He also caught a pretty nice lake trout that was absolutely jammed full of roe, which he had the unpleasant experience of trying to eat all the roe, which wasn't great to watch. I don't like seeing people gag on TV, but overall, a good score for him to start out his journey. We also saw him get a visit from an owl, which has a connection to his late dad. Like that little moment. He also talked about how him and some of his family members had these close experiences with owls after his dad passed, and I just thought that was a pretty cool moment. Also wanted to note that he gained 40 pounds before coming on the show, and with the knowledge that you have 1 month to prepare for the show, and it's totally within the rules to gain weight. I think that you're just putting yourself at a disadvantage if you don't gain that extra weight. And Al did put on that extra 40 pounds, and maybe that's enough to push him another, say, 3 weeks further into the season. And that's absolutely the difference between second and first, maybe fourth and second, wherever he ends up landing in that range. I think that extra weight absolutely pushes him further. And with it being a strategy, being within the rules, I think that you're a fool not to try and take advantage of that. Next up, let's jump over to Luke. Luke's from Hawaii. His family has a history of survival skills. And I was kind of wondering, I wonder how he's going to translate his skills from Hawaii to northern Saskatchewan, and immediately just takes down a grouse. Immediately throws out the philosophy that he's going to be taking every shot he can, which I think is the way to go. We did see him spot a black bear and miss 2 shots on the black bear from distance. He lost 1 arrow, but I fully agree with that. You got to take those shots. You have to try to get that game, and he's here to win. He's not here to leave with the most arrows. You got to try to win. So I like that he went for it. I like that he tried to take those shots, even though that was a far shot on the black bear. Maybe some of the other contestants would have hit that shot. Just throwing that out there. But I think that is the way to go. One other thing to note here is that it kind of looked like he might have damaged his sleeping bag by having it laid out, or maybe even sleeping in it near the fire, which could be a mistake, but we will have to wait and see. Next, let's jump over to Lee. Lee throws up a nice, simple shelter ASAP. Looks like he picked a pretty decent location for it. Didn't put much thought into it. Threw up a frame with some trees, tossed the tarp over, threw down some spruce boughs. He can improve that moving forward. For Lee, gives a very different vibe than all of our other contestants. This, like everybody else, seemed like they're viewing this as this great challenge, as this game, and Lee just kind of seems like, hey, whatever, this is just another day in my life. This is just what I do. He's from Alaska. Sounds like he's spent most of his life outdoors or close to nature. He's a pilot, and if he wins, he wants to buy a new plane. And I just kind of just like this guy. We see him spot an otter on the other side of the river, and he's just like, well, guess I got to build a raft. And the next day he just builds a raft. He just throws together a net. It's, for him, it's just no big deal. This is just what you do. And I feel like if we see another contestant try to build any sort of water vessel this season, that it's going to be a huge ordeal. But no, Lee was just like, oh, guess that's what I'm doing. We'll just throw this raft up. The raft is like sinking a bit. He doesn't care. He's like, yeah, whatever. It getting me around. It's getting the job done. Helps me put the net in. Helps me explore my area a little bit, and it's working. We see him go fishing, toss a few casts out, catches a nice lake trout. That's one effing fish for Lee. He goes back to his net. He's got a pike in the net, 2 effing fish for Lee. I think he's going to absolutely be a fan favorite this season. He just seemed absolutely effortless out there, and I will most definitely be rooting for him. Should be noted, he looks real skinny already, so he's going to have to keep up with those fish because the first little stretch that he goes without food could put him at too big of a deficit to come out of. Next up, we have Jodi. She is a homesteader, recently recovered from a nasty leg injury. They showed us some pictures there. It looked quite brutal. I believe it said she got thrown from a piece of machinery like 30 feet and wasn't walking, wasn't standing before 6 months ago. So it's kind of incredible that she's even out there. Looks like she intends to build a cabin. I think this is a big risk for her. Did look like she was making fast progress on the cabin. So hopefully she can finish her shelter before she runs out of reserves. Because if she doesn't, then we'll just see every season we usually see somebody focus too much on the shelter and they end up either trying to survive until they get that shelter done and then tapping out before they're able to finish. So we'll have to see if that is going to be the fate of Jodi. Like I said, it did look like she was making quick progress, but still all of her energy is going into that shelter, and food-wise, she's just living on reindeer moss and blueberries. Lastly, we have Cade. Cade's kind of seems like the pouty boy of the season. I'm just gonna come straight out and say it because it kind of felt like he was just pouty all episode long. He was pouty about the moose. What else? Pouty about the weight gain stuff. He does have some stuff going on at home, and I do feel for him because, my wife and I, we experienced numerous miscarriages, and I know how taxing that is, on your wife, but also, just in general on the emotions that you're going through. And, that's tough to have your wife experience that and then immediately be like, okay, bye, honey. I'll see you in 3 months. That's pretty tough to do. And don't really know how that is going to go for him. So Cade, he is a professional hunter. Early on, he finds what he thinks are moose tracks and starts tracking. Eventually, he busts out a little homemade moose call that he made out of some birch bark and calls in a caribou, which we find out is the only animal they are not allowed to shoot. Later on, we did see him shoot a grouse, but might not be too much shooting for the professional hunter after he loses his quiver while he's out tracking through the bush. Obviously we don't see anything, but really felt like he probably should have spent a little bit more time looking for that quiver. Maybe we just weren't shown that, but really felt like, he gave up really quick there. And then we end the episode with him giving this speech about how he's never going to quit, that he can never show his son that to be a quitter. And it was absolutely nonsense. Like, because you lost your only way of gathering food on a survival show and then chose to tap out, that your son is going to be a quitter for his entire life. That's absolute BS. And, honestly, I think I liked Cade more when he was the pouty boy instead of the misguided inspirational speech boy. And will be very interesting to see how things are going to go for him. You know, he's lost his main strategy for the show, which was, hey, I'm going to come on here and bag some big game, which is never a good strategy for Alone. You know, the big game is something that happens. It's something that can be done by the absolute best contestants that we've ever seen on the show, and everyone else just fails at it. You know, we have 9 seasons of data. We have 9 seasons of data. We're not seeing people just come on here, bag big game, just because that's what they said they wanted to do. You know, we look at like Clay, look at Roland. You know, those are the exceptions. Those aren't the norm. And yeah, would have been better off just putting on a bunch of weight. All right, let's wrap things up for here. Being a little bit too negative to end this episode. Very excited about season 10. Very excited that this show is in Saskatchewan. And very excited for just absolutely everything, and can't wait to see what happens this season. Sorry for being late on this one, everybody. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'm out.